Oh, by the way, always I knew family came first. That was always really clear with Ruth, and that was fine with me. I'm Peri Stone-Palmquist. I am the co-executive director of Student Advocacy Center. Um, there's a meditation practice that involves actually breathing in pain and suffering of others and breathing out healing, peace, hope. This is known as a practice that cultivates fearlessness, a word that makes me think of Ruth and how she lived her life and how she wants us to live our lives. So many of us try to avoid suffering. I try to avoid suffering. We go to great lengths to avoid it, right? But not Ruth. She turned her heart towards people who were hurting, rejected, wronged. She turned her heart to a little boy who had no friends at school and struggled to read. She turned her heart to a Black teen who was told she better not set her sights too high at school. She turned her heart to a child who had been expelled from school and no one would provide an education. She turned her heart to me, a clueless 24-year-old wrestling with my place in the world. Ruth never ran from my pain or others. She sat with it, softened her heart to let it in, and give it space and care. I think even recently, just a couple months ago, about a time I shared some struggles I was having with my own family, really painful. I remember initially hesitating to tell her, wondering if she would react in judgment to what I was saying. Instead, I left that conversation in awe. The wisdom and compassion she showed overwhelmed me. I noticed some people, it seemed like Ruth sat with the pain too much, that she seemed too negative and angry at the world. Perhaps, sometimes. But I wonder if that is because of how much peace and healing and love and justice she poured out to others. Think of all her many accomplishments, founding Student Advocacy Center with a group of fearless volunteers, winning the Black English case against Ann Arbor Public Schools, and making the point that districts must recognize and accommodate language barriers, working with Margaret Harner to end corporal punishment in Michigan schools, and being a critical voice in shifting our cultural understanding of children. Seen but not heard? I don't think so. Ruth taught us that we must be listening very carefully to our children and lifting up their voices. Of course, what I knew best about Ruth was her fight against zero tolerance in school, a cause that she passionately recruited me to 25 years ago. This was a fight that lasted decades and in some ways continues to this day. Indeed, it was many years after she retired, after she stood up at countless expulsion hearings demanding children get an education, after all of her writings, after she recruited countless grad students and professors to write about expulsion, after she and I attended a school-to-prison pipeline at Harvard, after we drove to Lansing, not safe, together countless times to meet with legislators or the Board of Education, after we begged the ACLU to pay attention to this issue and join our fight. After so many steps forwards and backwards, we were able to celebrate the overturning of zero tolerance in 2017. For all of the pain and suffering of others on this issue, Ruth had breathed in over the decades. She was finally able to breathe out healing, peace, hope, an important shift in Michigan. My last word on her accomplishments is about the Student Advocacy Center, of course. A lot of people can start a nonprofit, a lot do. To start a nonprofit that can sustain 50 years is another accomplishment altogether. From its grassroots beginning, with Ruth as a volunteer director, she led with deep values and continually recruited passionate folks who expanded the vision. The focus was always the children, and that's why it persists. Last year, SAC served more than 1,000 children across Michigan, adding to the tens of thousands served over its history, many directly by her. Thanks to Ruth's vision, more and more children every year have an opportunity to get an education and to be connected to an adult who loves them. who listens to them, who elevates their voice, who lives her deep values every day. Ruth is much more than her accomplishments, of course. Her legacy is about the way she lived her life and the way she encouraged us to live ours. For one thing, Ruth would always remind me to fight the bigger fights. You can't just help like one student at a time, she would say. You always have to always work to make the whole system better for everyone. I hear myself repeating that often to my team. It's not easy to love and support this one child in this one moment and to show up in movements that are also working on bigger solutions. But we can never stop trying. The way Ruth tackled this sort of dual micro-macro work was really rooted in love. Too often in the advocacy space, it can feel vicious and overly critical. I mean, after all, our job is to point out where the system is failing and hold people in power accountable for their shortcomings. We need brave people now more than ever, right? But too often, the way we do the work sucks the life out of the movement. Ruth, I noticed, was often the encourager in chief. When I went back to read all my emails from her, conversations I had over the last 13 years that I've run Student Advocacy Center, the common theme is unwavering positivity, actually. You brighten my life. These are direct quotes. Not sure of anything except how much I love you, and I'm so proud of all you do. Love you for being you. Love you, all caps. Often the subject line was untitled. I've often heard other elected officials and activists say they received similar emails, and I hope for the family here today that you know how much she talked about how much she loved each of you. I hope you know that. Yes, Ruth gave us marching orders, at least me. She called us to higher purpose and to fight bigger fights as bravely as we could. Sometimes I worried I couldn't be brave enough. Yes, she would recognize insidious problems happening all around us and call it out in the most stark terms. Yes, she would never let you sit on your laurels. But you were not the enemy. You were a co-conspirator, and she wanted you in on the fight. And how could you say no? Clearly I couldn't. Her calling was so deep. She believed in us, yes, all of us, to do the right thing. She cheered us on. She loved us. She opened our hearts. And now we must open our own hearts and continue that call bravely and with great encouragement. We must be willing to breathe in that pain, suffering of this moment, and breathe out hope, healing, justice, and love. Thank you.